Welcome back to Rate That Album, a back and forth album review between myself, Joseph Fremming. With me as always, it's Paul Muad'Dib. Paul, how are you doing?
Well, my buddy Gary's got a boner.
Well, he better look me in the eye and tell me that I'm satisfied then, Paul. Yeah, so this week I decided to rip one of the many Band-Aids that comes with discussing music, especially for people from Minnesota. We are talking about the Replacements and their album Let It Be. Paul, before we dig into this, because preface, I just read the book Trouble Boys. It's a biography on the Replacements for all of them, besides one, because he's dead. Contributed interviews and stuff, so I'm coming in pretty heavily loaded with information. But how about you? What is your familiarity with this band?
You know, it's not. I was more familiar with Westerberg's solo work than I was with the Replacements, to be honest with you. Quite a lot of it was played on The Current, and before they sold out, Cities 97 would play a lot of Westerberg. So by the time, I mean, this album came out, in 1984, I was 3 years old. So yeah, it came and went for me. But Westerberg was on KBSC, The Current, it was Cities 97. So I'm really excited actually to hear a lot of the information, because I know there's a lot there, but I don't know any of it.
Yeah, I think for us, there's definitely a generational change where we were probably more familiar with the Westerberg stuff just because that was on the alternative radio we listened to. And the people who were like a generation before us who hated the Westerberg stuff because it was not like the Replacements.
Right.
So I first started listening to this band at like 19 or 20, and a buddy of mine, he was an older generation guy. He loved this band. And so he would suggest things, and I'd be like, yeah, it's all right. And that's the worst thing you can say to a Replacements fan is, yep, it's all right. Something I would learn painfully in the next 10 years of working in a record store to the point where I just didn't give anybody any opinion on the Replacements. Same with Bob Dylan and Prince. Even if you said you liked something, it would devolve into the most mind-numbingly horrific discussion you'd never want to have. So I got into that, and like the thing is, like, over the years, especially in my 20s, the more people would yell at me about this band, the more I just started hating them. And it's not really because of the band; it was a lot of their fan base. Then I read Trouble Boys. And then I started hating the band themselves.
Oh, God. God.
So, brief history. They started in late 70s. It's Paul Westerberg, Bob Stinson, his little brother Tommy. Tommy was 13 when the band started, drops out of high school. He's in his mid-20s when the band breaks up in 1990, just to give you an idea how young this kid was compared to the rest of the guys. Future Guns N' Roses bass player too, and drummer Chris Mars, and so these guys were kind of like part of the first wave of pretty much Minneapolis's music scene. So if you go back, it was, and especially because they latched onto the hardcore and the punk, and you can hear that in some of these songs. A genre that none of the members really cared for. And would be openly hostile to like punk audiences when they play outside of Minneapolis.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, where they would play, I think it was like some like CBGB or something, and a bunch of hardcore punks with Mohawk, Liberty Spikes and all that. And, 14-year-old Tommy Stinson goes to the microphone. He's like, ooh, look, punk rockers. And this band is basically, their whole MO is to antagonize a crowd. They're known for this band could be called Alcoholism the Band, and not in like a fun way like Metallica, more
Oh,
in
God.
like, oh my God, this is tragic, because they would be blacked out drunk and get on stage and play sets. And if you know, reading the book, if you've known chronic alcoholics, you know they're not pleasant to be around.
No. I know chronic alcoholics, and I hate being around them.
Yeah, and they were chronic alcoholics, and everybody hated being around them. But for a certain section of people who were going to college in Minnesota in the mid 80s, it was the most fantastic thing they'd ever seen in their lives. Which is another reason I hate Replacements fans.
Fair enough.
They idolize this shit, and it's just like, I've seen drunk bands, they're not fun. And reading in the book, these guys who could barely play through one song, they would stop and start different songs. They had a thing called a pussy set, where they'd play shitty covers if they didn't like the audience. Like pop songs, like Bay City Rollers and shit like that. Like openly antagonistic. And yeah, it's funny when you talk about it, but when you're reading it, you're like, Jesus fucking Christ. And this is a band that self-sabotaged themselves at every step of the way. I've had conversations with Replacements fans who are like, man, if they would have just gotten a better chance, they'd have been up there with REM. And like, yeah, but they didn't. They were given a major label. They were given hundreds of thousands of dollars to promote albums that they refused. They would fuck around on radio, and they basically were their own worst enemy.
From what I understand of Westerberg, he was his own worst enemy.
Yeah, he's always been his own worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
He still kind of is. When they did the Replacements reunion, like, was it 2015, 2014? He sabotaged that. He claimed he could make more money doing solo shows than with the Replacements, which I'd call bullshit, because he's not selling out Met Stadium like he did with the Replacements reunion. He's just an asshole. These guys were it was four assholes in a band with raging substance abuse issues. Just to fast forward, it got to a point before they broke up, Westerberg had to get sober because his body couldn't metabolize alcohol anymore.
Oh, God.
What happens when you're drinking that much is if you drink, like, he would drink 2 or 3 beers and he would be blacked out drunk, and that's because his body is rejecting it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so when people are like, yeah, haha, they're drunk, haha, it's like, yeah, but they're those sad guys at the bar who were just like, holy fuck. So it's not really, they were a bunch of assholes. But unfortunately for me, Paul, they're assholes who did manage to write some really good songs. And here
they wrote some really good songs.
So we're talking about Let It Be, 1984. This is considered one of the last. This is like a 1-2 punch of like which most fans would consider their best 2 albums is this and Tim, in that it features the original lineup before they fired Bob Stinson. Bob Stinson, long history of mental illness. He was molested and raped as a kid by his stepfather, shit like that.
Oh, God.
Yeah. This band is full of fun stories, Paul.
Fucking Christ.
He would end up basically drinking his body and drugging his body to the point where his organs just shut down, and I think it was 95. Yeah. Hilarious, wacky Matt stories I'm full of here, Paul.
Oh,
but
God.
let's go back. So this is considered basically their classic album. It blends their punk stuff with the emergence of Paul Westerberg's more songwriting talents. This and Tim will blend those two pretty much really well. After they fire Bob, they lose an edge, and they kind of and the firing of Bob was also a tragic thing in that the decision was up to Tommy, his little brother, to fire him. So
oh, God.
Paul Westerberg is not only an asshole, he's a fucking coward too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So before we get into like the review, there is like a hilarious story though. I know I've been pretty. It's their story is dark and depressing. It's hard to get around that when you're dealing with 4 functioning chronic alcoholics.
Right.
But how they came up with the album title was they were really drunk on tour in their tour van, and they're rattling their brains trying to come up with a name for this album. They were finishing up recording. They just needed to get the cover art and the album title. Westerberg drunkenly said, "We're going to name it after the next song that plays on the radio." They obviously Let It Be by the Beatles plays. He's like, "We're playing it." Their manager at the time's like, "Yeah, they're going to forget they ever said this." Nope.
Oh, that's hilarious.
They did not. And they're even like for the follow-up album, Tim Westerberg considered calling it "Let It Bleed" to stick the theme.
Oh God.
Which would have been majestic. But again, another thing they fucked up.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah, I think so. But for all the shit I kicked and all the darkness I kicked out, it's one of the most, honestly, it's one of the most depressing books I've ever read. It's just, you're watching a band, you're reading about a band, and they're just basically just imploding and self-destructive, and it's really not, it's interesting. I love band bios and band documentaries, but that one even tested me with like, how much torture porn can you go through?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I mean, like I said, I knew Westerberg had some demons. But I didn't know it went that far.
Oh yeah, he had a lot of substance and antagonizing the label. They were on Sire, which was from a sub-label of Warner Brothers. They would burn their per diems and then complain about not having money. Like, it was just like shit. Like, you're just like, what the fuck is the point of that? But when you're drunk and you're that drunk all the time, I guess there's no explanations. That's why chronic alcoholics, you can't really explain their behavior because it's just all in their head with the chemicals and whatever. But let's talk about what was your initial reaction to Let It Be, Paul?
So when I first heard it, I immediately went, why have I not heard this? Like, how did this not get on my radar living here in Minnesota? You know, having listened to Westerberg, I don't understand how I didn't hear it. My initial thought was this is a cross between punk and grunge. Like, yeah. That was like, I'm like, this is a punk band that's becoming a grunge band, or a grunge band that's delving into punk. But knowing how old the album was, I was like, it's got to be the former.
Yeah, it's pre-grunge. They're kind of considered. People call Neil Young the god. This is more what people would associate with grunge. They had close connections with Soul Asylum. Dave Pirner was a friend of the band and all that.
Yeah, no, there definitely is punk in here. There's grunge in here. There's also, like a piano song that came out of nowhere.
Which is my favorite song on the album.
Yeah, Androgynous.
Yeah.
And like, you listen to the lyrics of it, you're going, for 1984, Westerberg, man, like it's so poignant.
Yeah.
It's so poignant. Like, holy shit.
Yeah. Your installs will be laughed at the way you're laughed at now. Yeah. That sort of shit. Like, wow, that was predicted way before people were scared about transgendered people using urinals.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And, it's just, there's so much here that is just really, really good. Honestly, Unsatisfied has been on like repeat on my fucking playlist.
That's been on a playlist of mine, Paul, for at least 15 years. Honestly.
It's so good. It's so fucking good.
That opening with the 12-string guitar, and it's a great
it's
track.
A great track. I mean, I Will Dare. It's just, it's got that punk pop to it. This album is really, really good.
And nice thing about I Will Dare, Peter Buck plays that guitar solo on it.
Oh, does he?
Yep. REM and the Replacements were pretty good friends, with friendly rivalry between them. One band actually tried and became successful. The other became their own worst enemies.
Yeah.
You decide which was which in that, Paul.
Well, Michael Stipe went nuts. No.
It has also got oddly, a really good Kiss cover song on here.
Yeah, Black Diamond, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that comes out of nowhere, too.
That came out of nowhere. That came out of absolute nowhere.
That falls right in the middle of Androgynous and Unsatisfied.
Yeah, you're just like, I don't know much about Kiss, but even I know that's a Kiss song. And I was like, that's a Kiss cover. What the fuck is these guys doing? Yeah, no, Answering Machine, like, there's a lot of pain in Westerberg and in the lyrics here. I mean, you got some of the joke ones in a way, like Tommy gets his tonsils out and, Gary's got a boner. But
Senior Video is probably the most cringy. I think that one is just not
good.
It's not wet that well.
Yeah. But like Answer Machine, the pain that you hear in Unsatisfied, like that's Unsatisfied. Even to me, goes like it's like almost pre-emo. I mean, just the way the voice is going and the wavy of the voice that's become a staple in emo tracks. Like holy fuck.
Yeah, and the cool thing, so I've been Unsatisfied's been, like I said, on playlist for me for like 15 years. And I was reading the book, and Westerberg kind of dismisses it or whatever because he's got to be a dick about everything.
Sure,
but he pointed out something that I never really even noticed. He says there's really no lyrics to that song. It's just me yelling I'm unsatisfied. I'm like, I thought about it. I'm like, I never thought of it, and I was like, it's still a good song. Still one of your best songs. But it was just like that kind of floored me. It's like, yeah, there really isn't.
No, it's are we satisfied? I'm unsatisfied, dissatisfied. I mean, in a way, it's his can't get no satisfaction.
Yeah.
Because there's not a whole lot of lyrics there either.
No, exactly. So, Paul, let's go through. Let's talk about our favorite songs. And I'll let you go first. Like, what is your favorite song on this?
My favorite song on this, hands down, is Unsatisfied. Like, that's my favorite song. Unsatisfied, Androgynous, I Will Dare, Favorite Thing, Answering Machine. Those are some of the great ones. 16 Blues is all right. I mean, it's not my favorite, but I'll listen to it. Tommy's got his tonsils out. It's a funny punk song. We're Coming Out. It is what it is. Senior Video, as you said, is cringe. But Black Diamond is, I mean, it's better than the Kiss version in my mind.
It just kind of comes out of nowhere, too.
Yeah. I mean, this is all in all, like front to back, a solid fucking album, dude.
Yeah.
Like one of the more solid ones that we've reviewed.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, and I want to talk about it too, because it's like, I've been kind of balancing, like, it's one of those things like don't meet your heroes. Like, also probably don't read about them either.
Right. Right. Band. I mean, you and I, going back to our heroes, that type of thing. You and I, big Pink Floyd fans. You and I have read books about it.
Yeah.
And we said, I wish I hadn't in some of it because of just the way they all come across as fucking smug shits. Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, and I guess I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm older, and maybe it's just because like I hadn't really listened to the lyrics really that closely until this. Androgynous is my favorite.
It's such a good song.
The piano I love how it ends with just like a fart chord, basically. Yep. But it's like it's such a beautiful song about two people who are not gender
specific
or whatever, falling in love, and it's like it's unexpected from a band that just seems like a bunch of fucking roughneck asshole holes from Minneapolis, and it's like, wow, that's pretty incredibly tolerant song, like respectful song for the era it came out of, and especially from these group of guys. But I just love it. I think it rings as times change.
Yeah,
we're seeing people being more accepted. And I saw this cover, Laura Jane Grace from Against Me, who's transgendered into a woman.
yeah.
She does a cover with Joan Jett and Miley Cyrus, which is really good. If you have that's on YouTube, I'll share it with you at some point.
Yeah, share that with me.
But yeah, I really like that. Unsatisfied, I really like I said, An Answering Machine. Just
yes.
I like the curmudgeonry of technology, even when something is like now is every day as an answering machine, but just how like intrusive it felt to Westerberg in 1984.
Oh yeah, and like again, you can tell that he literally like this is a song of a place of he truly hates this person's answer, this woman's answer machine. He fucking hates it, and you can tell that it's not just a song to write a song. It's he fucking hates it.
Oh, and I like the balance too, and of goofy songs with like the serious.
Yes,
which I think they lost after Tim. They just Westberg started. This is what happens when people are told they're an artist for so many years. They start believing it. So you get all you end up getting is these artist songs from Westerberg, and some of them are good, and some of them are just like, oh Jesus Christ, man! There's no levity here. There's like no. I'm just being whacked over the head with your emotions. It's like if I want to hear that, I'll listen to The Wall because that'll, so much depression I can sit through. But so I listened to that song like Tommy Gets His Tonsils Out, and I love the imagery of it, of this doctor who, wants to get to play golf and he has to do this stupid surgery.
So he doesn't. So he just quickly rips them out. Yeah, awesome.
Just quickly rips them out because he has to hit the greens. He has to hit the links. I just like that. To me, it's that tickles me.
Yes.
But then you get like the only two songs I don't like a Senior Video. Like it's just cringy. I like they almost have like a Neil Young and Crazy Horse vibe with the instrumental, and if Senior Video just remained an instrumental, I probably would have liked it more.
Sure.
But the last half, all of a sudden, you get these lyrics about, it's just like, we're real rock and roll and you're not, and it's like, oh, fuck off. Considering a few years later they would make videos themselves. So. Yeah,
no, and it's for as little lyrics it has, it didn't need to be a 3-minute song.
Yeah, and then 16 Blue, I just think it just slows it down too much.
It does. It's a slow one, but I thought it was a good kind of wind down of the album. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
But no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, if it wasn't Gary's Got a Boner Rate in an Answering Machine, I'd probably, I'll just skip over 16 Blue when I listen to it. It's just not my favorite. But yeah, there's, it's an interesting album. It's, knowing their story, and it's just also like they're recording this. They're all still living with their parents when they're recording this.
That's funny.
Because you see, if you're a punk band in Minneapolis, you're not making money in 1984. Like these guys, they did not start making money until they got, even when they got onto a major label, they were all still dead broke. That doesn't
surprise me.
The only one working was Bob. He was a line cook at some restaurant in Minneapolis. He kept that job. All the band was starting to pick up, and
that's hilarious.
Yeah, but it's also he becomes more and more not around on these albums. You don't hear his guitar as often because he would just not show up to the studio because he honestly rather would have just been making pancakes than record with these guys because even at this point, he hated being around Paul Westerberg.
Yeah, I heard that a lot of it was Westerberg that was the one that really the other members didn't like.
Yeah. He replaced Bob and he replaced the drummer Chris Mars. And even at one point before they finally broke up, Tommy Stinson was starting to feel that he was going to be replaced. And, he was like, wow, we'd finally live up to the name of the Replacements after that. Because he'd get something up his ass and he'd be all angry at the guitarist or whatever. I mean, this is a guy who holds a grudge, man. Like, he's still angry about things that happened in 1989.
Really?
Yeah, you read that book, he's still mad. Like, he spent a decade, like, the guitarist who followed Bob, Slim Dunlap, he said something like he thought his solo songs were kind of shitty, and Paul Westerberg wouldn't talk to him for like 10 years.
Oh, God. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like, just, and it's that kind of shit is just like that's such a Minnesota thing too. That just is such a Midwest attitude. Like, you say something that slights me slightly, I'm gonna be mad at you for the next decade.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I can't lie. I've been there.
Well, the podcast I've been walking on eggshells with you after that Lindsey Buckingham.
How dare you hate the whitest album we've ever listened to?
That'll even include when we review the White Album itself.
Right. No, all in all, though, this album is a lot of fun. Truth be told, not knowing much about the band, it's kind of depressing to know, that this is kind of what they were. But I'm not entirely shocked. I mean, it's a punk band from Minneapolis. I was in a punk band from Minneapolis, and I could tell you, well, I should say a punk band that's north of Minneapolis. And, it's just a bunch of fucking drunks. That's all it is.
Yeah. It's also funny because they were good friends because another band, they were also compared when they first came out with another band from Minneapolis at the time, Husker Du.
Oh, yes.
Another, they knew each other. Like, Bob Mould, I think, he's one of my favorite songwriters. That guy is fucking talented as shit.
He is really talented. He's straight up really talented.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy, like, their history, it's just, it's tragic. It's really dark. There is like moments where it's entertaining, but that entertaining quality, if like I said, and you agreed, like, if you've been around chronic drunks, it's not as entertaining.
No.
It's different being a spectator than being around it.
Yeah, I was in a short-lived punk band that played in a basement at this particular house, and we would play every Friday night at this house shortly after high school. And, I wanted it to be something a little bit more serious, but they just looked at it as we get free booze at this place. And very, very short-lived. It was something like maybe a couple months, if that, performing. And it just got to the point where, like, depending on which Friday night and how many people were coming in and out of this house, we wouldn't even finish a set because they would be I would like to say I wasn't included, but I probably was, being too drunk to finish a set.
Yeah. And it's one thing when you're playing a house party, but like, people are paying to see these guys at First Avenue and these, all across the country. They'd go on these national tours and
right, and be blackout fucking drunk.
Blackout Drunk, and sometimes they'd be like really good. Like it was just, I guess it was muscle memory for them because they'd be blacked out and then they'd sober up because they're burning all that energy on stage and then come to their whatever. But a lot of times it was just them falling over each other and
Jesus.
Yeah. But they're now considered a classic band, and these albums are probably finally making them a little bit of change.
Sure. Which, I mean, for an album that is this good, they should get some change for it. This is a stellar album.
Yeah, this is a great album. This, and the follow-up, Tim suffers because it was just produced really bad. It was produced by Tommy Ramone, and it's so tinny sounding. It's just like there's no backbeat from the bass and drums. It falls flat. Where here it feels more texturalized and it actually pops a bit. Yeah, their major label debut with Tim, it sounded like shit, which is a shame because there's so many really good songs on it, but they don't sound good.
Right. Absolutely. No, that makes sense to me. I mean, I'm definitely going to check it out. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about the Replacements. I know more about Westerberg solo. So, I definitely want to listen to more of them. I'll have to check out the album Tim. But all in all, no, I think this. I was a pleasure to listen to this album compared to some things we've done.
Yeah, I mean, I'll suggest it. I think people should listen to it. It's just people just don't talk to me about the Replacements because I made a point to talk with Paul about it because I like Paul. Most people I don't like, so don't talk to me about this band because I don't want to talk about the Replacements with strangers.
No, that's fair, man. And yeah, I totally yes, I will suggest and recommend this album. Like this is something, again, if you're into the grunge or what grunge was, you're in the kind of post-punk, or even punk. There's a lot here, and there's some pop sensibilities on this as well. Yeah,
they were. I mean, Westerberg doesn't he doesn't lie or anything. He's like, I grew up on bands like Kiss and the Bay City Rollers. Like, he had an ear for poppy, catchy songs, and it shows through. And and this is an album. I think if it was released in 1991 instead of 1984, this band would be more of a household name, I would say.
I would completely agree with you. This came out way too early.
Yeah, it was just ahead of their time. A lot of it, that's just that's just
much like the Sparks, right?
Yeah.
Much like the Sparks.
Yeah. It's just you just come too early, but they're now generally regarded as kind of like the forefathers of Nirvana and those sorts of, especially Nirvana. Like, I hear a lot. Cobain always said he wasn't a big Replacements fan, which I'd probably call bullshit on.
Yeah, I mean, again, Unsatisfied, that totally screams of Nirvana.
Yeah, that sounds like that could be on In Utero.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the vocals, everything on it, yeah. Yeah, and I think even I read, it was in the book, but like in the 90s, Westerberg actually wrote like a song dissing Cobain for some reason. Like, just to show what a giant asshole this guy is. Like, he was sober, and like it was just like, man, like, he sounds like a dry drunk if he's doing that shit. Oh my God, there's nothing worse than a dry drunk. Fuck. God damn it.
Paul Westerberg. He wants to remain a giant asshole. All the power to him, I guess.
Yeah, right.
I'll enjoy the music. I just won't ever want to meet him on the street or anything.
So, real quick, I just want to bring up, because I always like to bring up the reviews of albums and things like that. This album is, 5 stars, all music, 5 stars, the Austin Chronicle, A+, from the Christgau Record Guide. NME 8 out of 10, Pitchfork 10 out of 10, Rolling Stone 5 out of 5, Spin 5 out of 5. This album gets a lot of praise. It's on a lot of best rock and roll albums. VH1, it's on that at 79. Pitchfork put it at 29 of the best 100 albums of the 80s. Spin ranked it number 12 on their greatest 25 albums of all time. This is on a lot of Rolling Stones best albums of their 500 greatest albums. This is on a lot of. Yeah. There's a lot of love for this album. Absolutely, it deserves that love. Like, and I feel like I came off really crabby with this. Like, people, you got to understand. People have been talking to me about this band for so many years. I get really defensive and angry about it. It's like when people talk to me about Bob Dylan and the Replacements. Like, just because I'm from Minnesota doesn't mean I want to talk about these bands. And I wish more people would want to talk to me about Prince, because I could talk about Prince day and night. Like, well, and this I wanted to bring that up is that I mean, when you leave Minnesota, you tell people and they're like, oh, you must be a Prince fan. Oh, you must be a Bob Dylan fan. Oh, you must be a Replacements fan. And I'm with you. I'll talk Prince all day long. I've met Bob Dylan. I mean, I've run into him. There's not much to say there. The guy doesn't fucking talk. Well, I mean, if you live in Minnesota, you've probably run into him or Sergeant Slaughter. I mean, it's just what it is. Sergeant Slaughter, who didn't even serve in the military, Paul. No, but I tell you what, he frequents the St. Cloud Target quite a bit. Crossroads or East Side? Crossroads. Oh yeah. I've seen him there at least twice. So it's what it is. But no, Prince was an enigma even to us in Minnesota. Like, people are like, oh man, talk to us about Prince. Fuck. Well, what do you want to know? I think well, let's go, because we have time with this. It's podcasting. I think people thought that Charlie Murphy True Hollywood Story was a lot of embellishment. From the people I know that had run-ins with Prince, it wasn't. Him making those pancakes after beating Eddie Murphy's brother in basketball, is not the weirdest Prince story I've heard. No, it's not. Like Prince was a strange dude. Like, he had Paisley Park. I mean, you and to bring up the Kevin Smith story. Kevin Smith would talk about Prince and how he made that will never be released. Yes. So my sister-in-law went to school for production, music production, and Prince was notorious in a good way for letting people use his studio to come in and learn. And she was in Prince's studio, and it's the truth that he has the vault that people talk about, that people were thinking after he died was going to be a release of at least 25 Prince albums, because there's just so much there. I think it was more than 25. I think they said they could have released a new Prince album every year for the next 75 years. Like, he just was it that much? Yeah, it was. He recorded that much material. But the thing people have to remember is it's not all of it's going to be Sign of the Times. Purple Rain. Yeah, it's not going to be. Yeah. No, and I think that's, the guy was a genius, but with that genius came a very troubled life. Yeah. Yeah, he was, but yeah, the amount of, I think Brian Eno was like that too. He has hundreds of albums of material recorded that he just doesn't release because he doesn't think it's that good. But he just does it just to probably keep the brain fresh. And I'm sure that's what Prince was doing. Just keep recording and give a song a chance. And if it doesn't work, throw it in the vault. Yeah, no, absolutely. Neil Young's the same way. Neil Young's the same way. Albums of shit that's just never released. And he just started releasing the bootlegs, which is a bunch of stuff I think that was sitting in his vault. And a lot of it's really good. And you're like, why did you hold
onto this, and like some of the stuff I've been hearing from the Prince vaults, like some unreleased stuff. Like they released like a few years ago that him on a piano doing songs.
Yep.
And that was fucking phenomenal.
It was so good.
I was just like floored by that. It's like, God damn.
But Prince was and is a perfectionist.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I am shocked that the Purple Rain that we got is the Purple Rain that we got, right? Because that was a one-time recording at First Avenue. And if you listen closely, you can hear in the background some of the audience. And I'm surprised that we got that version of the song.
Well, he's such a phenomenal guitarist, Paul. Paul, what's your top 3 guitarists?
Lindsey Buckingham, Prince, and Frank Zappa.
Oh, wow. Yeah, mine, number 3, I would say Prince.
Yep.
Number 2, David Gilmour, just because I'm going by my favorites, but Prince is like in the top 3. And number 1, you guessed it, Frank Stallone.
Frank Stallone.
Rest in peace, Norm Macdonald.
Oh my God, that was so sad, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Dirty Work was such an underrated movie.
Ridiculous. Just ridiculous. What really hurt was the betrayal. Well, no, the other thing that hurt the most, but the betrayal also hurt.
Dude, Norm was he transcended comedy, man. Like he was the thing with Norm was he was a comic, you know. He was the guy that was making the other comics laugh. Oh, he was like a Gilbert Gottfried in that regards.
The roast of Bob Saget, where he just does those lame jokes because Comedy Central, like, they told him to like just go as dirty and go for the throat with Bob here. And Norm was so like kind of offended by that, so he just
did the lame jokes,
lame dad jokes.
Yes. And nobody knew what was going on, but except some of the other comics were in on the joke. Like, yeah, no, dude, it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. But no, I mean, back to Prince. That guy, the Super Bowl that he played, right?
Oh, where he did Purple Rain in the Rain.
Where he did Purple Rain in the Rain, and I watched a documentary on it. Like, I don't know if it was a 30 for 30 what it was, but they were so scared that Prince was going to cancel. And he's like, nah. He's like, we'll make this work. And here he is in the rain, like, and they said the shoes that he was wearing and the area, and it was so slick, and he was dancing around, and the girls were dancing around. It was poetic. And he does Purple Rain in the rain at the fucking Super Bowl, and he owned it. Oh, he owned that shit.
Yeah, when he'd make those appearances, man, like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where they do All My Guitar Gently Weeps, and he just fucking crushes the solo.
Yes.
Like, everybody's just looking in awe because he's on fucking fire, man. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, and at the end he just throws the guitar up in the air and just walks off. It's like, what the fuck, man?
That's a baller move, man. That was a baller move.
It was. That move worked for him, Cotton. Holy fuck. All right. So, Joe, what do you got going on at the Joe Down?
We just did the review for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
You sure did. I enjoyed that. Review, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Took some swipes at J.K. Rowling.
As you should.
As soon as I saw those goblins, man, I knew. I was like, oh, slow down there, J.K. This is a World War II propaganda poster.
Yeah, the
bankers.
The banking goblins are not the best thing ever. Yeah, I thought the same thing when I saw them when I watched the movie for the first time. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I talked to my buddy Dan. He says they're not described as that detailed probably in the book from his memory. I don't know. I'll probably pick up that book. Right now I'm in the middle of the Clash of Kings, the Game of Thrones shit. Because
oh yes, how are you liking those?
I'm liking it. I like it a lot. I think that I just like the more detail in the books. You get like the perspectives better than in the show. So that's what I'm enjoying.
It's like I tell people, for every subplot that was in the show, there's about 5 other subplots that you never got.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I'm not in the middle of the second book. But the weirdest character so far is that patch face guy. Like, Jesus Christ, what the hell's wrong with that guy?
There's a lot of characters as you get in that you're going to go, what's wrong with this guy? And I don't want to give too much away, but there was a particular character that was dropped out of the show that never should have been.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking, because I cheated. I went ahead. That's Caitlin Stark's zombie.
Yeah, it's Lady Stoneheart. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, they never should have took her out of the show. They should have put her in because she was she was fucking awesome. So I don't want to give, like I said, I don't want to give too much away on what her character does, but there was a particular scene that they changed in the show that was actually should have been Lady Stark's triumph.
Oh, yeah. I'm guessing Arya when she kills.
I'm not going to say anything to you, dude. I'm not going to say it.
You know, I'm just gonna look it up.
Well, fine, fine. Yes, it wasn't Arya that killed Mr. What's his name from Harry Potter?
Yeah,
Mr. Filch.
I saw that actor. I was like, oh yeah, Red Wedding's going to appear in this one.
Right. Yeah, no. It wasn't Arya. It was Lady Stoneheart that killed him. Mm-hmm.
I mean, these books are so long. It'll probably, by the time I get to that plot, I'll probably be 80. So that's
and he'll probably still have me done with the next book.
He'll just have his brain in a frozen pod.
Pretty much. Typing away, just like in Futurama.
Yeah. But yeah, so after Harry Potter, we're doing Bad Lieutenant, Port of New Orleans.
The Johnny Cage, the Nick Cage,
Nicolas Cage. Werner Herzog for some reason made it.
Yep, Bad Lieutenant.
They use the Bad Lieutenant name, even though it has nothing to do with the actual classic Bad Lieutenant movie.
It has nothing to do with the original Bad Lieutenant. I don't know how they got the name for it. But
probably studio still owned it, would be my guess.
That's probably, yeah. That's probably.
Do better if we just make it a whatever. Fucking fuckers.
Faking up of names.
Yeah.
God damn it. Well, it's kind of like Troll and Troll 2, right? Have you guys done Troll 2 yet? You guys should do Troll 2. You should do Troll 2. That should be something you guys totally do.
That movie's has nothing to do with the first one.
It has nothing to do with the first one. But it's fantastic that it has nothing to do with the first one.
Oh, yeah, it's on our list. We'll get to it.
Good. It should be on your list.
So
all right.
What you got going, Paul?
I got this. Maybe I'm going to start up the Griffiny can start up the Stranger Things one. We're going to have to see what's going on with her schedule. That's about it. Cast That Movie, unfortunately, is on hiatus again. So, that's what that is. But more importantly, Joe, is what are we going to do next week?
I don't know. It's your pick.
It is my pick. We are going to do the 6th studio album by a female singer that I am a big fan of. We are going to do her album, The Sensual World. It is Kate Bush, The Sensual World.
Yeah.
Her 1989 release.
I like Kate Bush.
Yeah, I figured.
Like of hers were. She was somewhat discovered by David Gilmour, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that she had a lot
on her first couple albums.
Yep, I believe you're absolutely right on that. So yeah, we're gonna do
Gilmour.
God damn it, Gilmour! Quit discovering good talent, Gilmour, and get back in the studio.
Yeah, maybe spend less time discovering good talent and focus more on making good albums.
Oh, dude, So, did you see they're putting out a re-release of "Momentary Lapse of Reason"?
Oh, I've heard it, man. There's no saving that album. Like, fuck that. They're so. It's on the latter years box set already. So, like, the fact now they're just putting out like is just such a cynical money grab.
Yeah.
I was on the Latter Days box set, like I think it was like 2 years ago, maybe last year. Not last year, it was at least 2 years ago. I think I've even messaged you as like, it's still bad, man.
Yeah, you did message me. You said it's awful.
Yeah, it's there's no saving that. The problem with that is wasn't the lack of drums and keyboards from the original members. It was the fact that the songs sucked.
Yeah, no, the songs are terrible. The songs are absolutely terrible. So yeah, we're gonna get into a little bit of some Kate Bush next week.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I figure, I mean, we'll see what we think of the album.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard that one. I've listened to like Wuthering Heights a lot. That was like my favorite.
Yeah, Wuthering Heights is a good album. It's a good album.
Yeah, it's really good.
It is really good. It's a damn good album.
And she's also another pioneer we'll probably be discussing because her work influenced a lot of 90s women.
Oh, yes. Oh, we'll definitely be talking about that.
Most notably, I'd probably say Tori Amos.
Tori Amos. Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't have Tori Amos if it wasn't for Kate Bush.
Yeah, but we'll get into that next.
Yes, we will. Joe, why don't you take us out, buddy?
You think Gary still has that boner?
Joe Frelick and Paul Muad'Dib.